Grain of Sand's visit to the Canary Islands. Grain of sand is very small, so much so that unless he's right beside you, you won't be able to see him. He always comes to see me when the wind blows him to and fro, and that's how I met him. He lives in the desert. His mother is a sand dune. One day, Grain of Sand decided to go on a trip to explore some new places. When the wind began to blow, he set off on his journey. After travelling for a long time, they came across a small green tadpole called La Palma. They stopped to talk to each other for a while, and then Grain of Sand carried on with his journey. They spent several days crossing the sea, and Grain of Sand started to feel very tired. He said to the wind, "Do you know a place where we can stop and have a rest?" The wind replied, "Don't worry, we're travelling to an island which has a very black skin that's full of wrinkles and is very hot. But if you're thirsty, I can't give you any water because it's very dry." Grain of Sand replied, "It doesn't matter. I'm so tired. Take me there." The wind made his way to the island and started to drop down and down until he reached a lazy worm called Lanzarote. He had been sleeping, so he woke up feeling very angry. Seeing that he was so annoyed, the wind decided to keep blowing Grain of Sand to another island that wasn't so grumpy. And in that way they reached the slimy Fortaventura. The wind asked him, "Will you let my friend Grain of Sand have a rest here?" Fortaventura replied, "Of course I will. I'm very bored, but together we can have lots of fun." They talked whilst they had a rest, and Fortaventura said that he needed lots of water. After his rest, Grain of Sand took off to play amongst the wind and the waves. Whilst he was playing, he saw a cloud, so he asked that the cloud let some rain fall on Fortaventura because he felt very sorry for their shortage of water. Whilst he was playing with the wind, he bumped into a crab called Canaria. He had been asleep, and so he woke up with a fright when he heard Grain of Sand come along. "What's the matter, Crab?" asked Grain of Sand. "I'm very sad because I'm very dry in the south, even though I'm green all over in the centre," replied the crab. "You look like one of the grains of sand from my beach, Palomas. Is that where you're from?" "No, I'm from Africa," answered Grain of Sand, and he went off once again to play amongst the waves. Suddenly he heard a voice that was saying, "Quack, quack." "Who are you?" said Grain of Sand. "Hello, I'm Tenerife. I can see that you're going in the same direction as my friend's house, La Gomera, who's got the same shape as a ladybird. She lives a little bit lower than here. Could you take her a present for me?" Grain of Sand made his way over to La Gomera and gave her the present. He stopped for a minute to admire the vegetation of the little ladybird. Then Grain of Sand returned to play with the wind, and slowly he moved further and further away from La Gomera. Swept away by a gust of wind, he ended up on a beautiful butterfly called El Hierro. The wind continued to play with Grain of Sand, swooping him up and down so that he could see all the wonderful colours of the island. The wind blew Grain of Sand once again to La Palma, where the story first began. They spent a long time talking about their adventures and having fun. Grain of Sand finally decided that it was time to return home to Mummy Sand Dune. The wind carried him back to her, and as soon as he arrived, he started to tell her about all the things he had seen and about all the friends he had made and would never forget.
Thanks for watching. See you soon, friends.